I walked into the hotel lobby with a forced smile, my heart heavy. Everything sparkled. The crystal chandeliers, the marble floors reflecting the footsteps of elegantly dressed guests. The air was filled with the scent of fresh roses and champagne, yet I couldn't enjoy any of it. Today was my daughter Lauren's wedding day, but somehow, I felt like I didn't belong here. Stepping through the grand glass doors of the Astoria Grand Hotel, I tried to steady myself. I had spent my entire life raising Lauren, working endless hours at the hospital so she could pursue her dream of becoming a doctor. And today, the little girl I had once held in my arms was marrying the son of one of the wealthiest and most powerful families in the city, the Wellingtons. But the moment I stepped inside, that sense of not belonging became even more overwhelming. "Mom!" I heard my daughter's voice call out from across the lobby. Turning around, I saw Lauren rushing toward me, still dressed in her regular clothes instead of the stunning wedding gown she had spent months choosing. Her eyes were filled with tension, and her forced smile did little to hide her unease. She grabbed my hand tightly, whispering so fast that I had to strain to hear her. "Mom, they changed your seating arrangement." I blinked. "What do you mean?" Lauren squeezed my hand even tighter, her gaze avoiding mine as she looked down at the floor. "You're sitting near the kitchen." I could feel my heart beat slow, but I kept my expression neutral. I had expected something like this. Ever since I first met Margaret Wellington, Lauren's soon-to-be mother-in-law, I knew she saw me as nothing more than an inconvenience, a widowed nurse from a working-class background not prestigious enough to sit among their elite guests. Margaret said, "It's because of the camera setup and lighting," Lauren continued, her voice laced with discomfort. I let out a small, knowing smile, a poor excuse. No one places the mother of the bride near the kitchen for better lighting. This was intentional, a carefully planned humiliation. Before I could respond, a sharp, authoritative voice cut through our conversation. "Lauren, what are you doing down here? The makeup team has been waiting for you." I didn't need to look to know it was Margaret Wellington. She approached with slow, deliberate steps, her expensive cream-colored dress hugging her slender frame perfectly, heels clicking against the marble floor. Her neatly styled hair was swept into an elegant bun, and a string of luminous pearls adorned her neck. Her gray-mue eyes scanned over me with thinly veiled disdain. "Ah, you made it," she spoke with a practiced artificial smile. "I assume Lauren has already informed you about the seating arrangement, hasn't she?" I kept my composure, meeting Margaret's gaze directly. "Yes, I know." She tilted her head slightly, the smile never fading, but her voice sharpened. "I'm sure you understand. This wedding has very important guests and we need everything to be absolutely perfect." I knew exactly what she meant. I didn't fit into the perfect picture she was trying to create. I was an unwanted stain among the polished elite, where social status meant everything. Lauren glanced at me, worried, but I simply gave her a small nod. "You should head to the bridal suite, sweetheart," I said softly. "No one wants the bride to be late." Lauren bit her lip, hesitated for a moment, but then turned and walked away. As soon as she disappeared, Margaret stepped closer, lowering her voice but making sure every word hit its mark. "You know, Olivia," she dropped any pretense of politeness, using my first name with pointed familiarity, "we've done everything we can to accommodate Lauren. She was insistent on inviting you, but I trust you understand your place. No one wants an ordinary nurse tarnishing the image of the Wellington family on such an important day." I clenched my fists slightly but kept my voice steady. "I'm not here to embarrass anyone. I just want to witness my daughter's special day." Margaret raised an eyebrow, her cold smile deepening. "Good, then enjoy your meal. With the staff, I'm sure you'll feel more comfortable among people of your kind." I didn't respond. I had been a nurse for nearly 20 years. I had seen people in their weakest, most desperate moments, begging for one more chance at life, whispering their final words to their loved ones. I had fought against death itself, done things that people like Margaret Wellington could never begin to understand. She thought I wasn't worthy? I had met plenty like her before. But today was not the day for a fight. I turned and walked toward the banquet hall. If they thought they could break me, they were wrong. I wouldn't go down that easily. I stepped into the grand ballroom, my heart heavy, but my face calm and composed. The crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, their light reflecting off the polished marble floor. Guests in expensive gowns and tailored suits raised their delicate champagne flutes, engaged in lively conversations. But no matter how extravagant the setting was, I could feel the weight of something unseen pressing down on me. the silent scorn of the Wellington family. My seat was at the farthest corner of the room, near the staff entrance, completely out of sight from the important guests. I sat down on a white silk-covered chair, across from a few hotel staff who were preparing trays of food. They cast me sympathetic glances, but I gave them a small nod, silently reassuring them that I was fine. I had endured enough humiliation for one lifetime. I glanced down at my phone, my fingers tightening around it unconsciously. A part of me told me to stay quiet, to endure this, to let everything pass peacefully for Lauren's sake, but another part reminded me of something more important. I had spent my entire life working tirelessly, saving countless lives, yet here I was, being treated like I didn't even deserve a place at my own daughter's wedding, simply because of where I came from. I took a deep breath and dialed a number. The call was answered almost immediately. Olivia? A familiar voice came through the line. Elliot Carter, CEO of Carter International, the company that owned the Astoria Grand Hotel. A powerful man, yet remarkably humble. I didn't waste time. Elliot, I need a favor. A brief silence, then a quiet chuckle. Tell me what you need. I told Elliot everything. How Margaret Wellington had treated me, how they had deliberately humiliated me in front of the entire guest list, how they had tried to push me to the sidelines on my own daughter's special day. I didn't need to exaggerate or embellish, the truth was bitter enough on its own. I heard Elliot's sigh on the other end. I hate people like that. Olivia, what do you want me to do? I looked around the ballroom. The event was still in full swing, guests still laughing and chatting, but I knew that within minutes everything was about to change. I smiled, my voice steady and certain. Elliot, I think it's time they realize they just insulted the wrong person. Just 20 minutes later, the grand doors of the ballroom swung open, and Elliot Carter strode in, his tall, commanding presence filling the space. His sudden arrival sent a chill through the entire room. Conversations halted and heads turned, confusion evident on many faces. Elliot Carter was not the kind of man who attended events like this without a reason. Like a reflex, Margaret Wellington quickly composed herself. She stepped forward, her lips curving into a carefully calculated smile. Elliot, she said with feigned warmth, what a pleasant surprise. I had no idea you'd be attending this event. But Elliot didn't look at Margaret. His eyes were fixed on me. He smiled, then turned to address the entire room, his voice clear and authoritative. Apologies for the interruption, but I'm here to make an important announcement. A hush fell over the ballroom. Every pair of eyes locked onto Elliot. Then, he turned to Margaret, his expression now devoid of any amusement. The Astoria Grand Hotel will no longer be hosting this event. Effective immediately, all of my staff will cease operations. His words landed like a bomb in the center of the ballroom. I watched as servers immediately set down their trays, chefs emerged from the kitchen, untying their aprons. Receptionists, bartenders, even the hotel manager all stopped working on the spot. Margaret's face drained of color. What? No, this isn't possible. Elliot turned his gaze on her, his voice calm but firm, carrying an unmistakable weight of authority. You really think I would continue to host an event where one of my most esteemed guests was openly humiliated on her own daughter's wedding day? The ballroom was deathly silent. A few guests began whispering amongst themselves, confused glances, skeptical stares, all directed at Margaret Wellington. Margaret stammered, her composure slipping. What are you talking about? Who was humiliated? Elliot turned back to me, his eyes filled with genuine respect. Olivia Warren is not just a nurse. His voice carried through the room. She has saved thousands of lives throughout her career, led some of the largest public health initiatives in this state. And more importantly, he turned back to Margaret, locking eyes with her. She is a senior board member of the Carter Medical Foundation, the very organization that has funded millions of dollars in grants to hospitals, including the one your family operates. This time, the entire room fell into a stunned silence. I saw Lauren staring at me, her mouth slightly open in shock. She had never known the truth. Margaret Wellington stood frozen, her face drained of all color. No, that's not possible. But Elliot wasn't finished. You thought Olivia Warren was just an ordinary nurse? You just made the biggest mistake of your life. Every pair of eyes turned toward Margaret, and she knew. She had lost. Lauren trembled as she stepped closer to me, her eyes filled with guilt. Mom, why didn't you ever tell me? I gently squeezed my daughter's hand, offering her a reassuring smile. Because I wanted you to choose your own path, not be influenced by what I have. Tears welled up in Lauren's eyes before she threw her arms around me, holding me tightly. But I knew this was just the beginning. I let go of my daughter, brushing a tear from her cheek before turning back to face the room, which was still reeling from the shock. Margaret Wellington stood motionless, her once sharp, condescending gaze now replaced with sheer panic and regret. The very guests who had once admired her were now whispering among themselves, exchanging skeptical glances. I took a step forward, my voice calm but unwavering as it echoed through the silent ballroom. I didn't come here to ruin my daughter's wedding, but if anyone thought they could demean me and get away with it, they were mistaken. I turned my gaze toward Elliot Carter, who still stood beside me, his expression firm and unwavering. Elliot, I truly appreciate your help, but I don't want today to be a disaster for Lauren. This wedding will go on, but there will be some changes. Elliot smiled slightly and nodded, fully trusting my decision. I then turned toward the event coordinator, a middle-aged woman standing in the corner, looking utterly lost in the chaos. Start over. I will personally oversee everything, and first, let's rearrange the seating. A few murmurs rippled through the crowd, but no one dared to object. I glanced toward the table where I had originally been placed near the kitchen. Margaret Wellington now stood beside it, looking like a stranger in the very space she once controlled. I met her eyes and let a small, knowing smile play at the corner of my lips. I think this spot suits you perfectly, Margaret. She opened her mouth to protest but quickly shut it when she noticed every pair of eyes in the room now focused on her. She no longer had the authority to command anyone. Lauren took my hand, her gaze now filled with admiration and respect. Mom, do you really want the wedding to continue? I squeezed her hand gently, offering a reassuring smile. Of course. But this time, you will walk into your marriage as yourself, not as someone trying to fit into a family that doesn't accept you. Lauren nodded, her eyes glistening with emotion. Thank you, Mom. The wedding proceeded, but the atmosphere had completely changed. The servers returned, not under Margaret's orders but as part of an event that I now oversaw. The guests, still somewhat unsettled, slowly began to accept that things would no longer go according to Margaret Wellington's plan. As the ceremony began, James the groom stepped onto the stage and took the microphone, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. Before we continue, I need to say something. Mrs. Olivia, I owe you an apology. I blinked, looking up at him. James continued, his deep voice filled with conviction. I stood by, while my mother treated you unfairly. I thought that avoiding confrontation was the right thing to do, but I was wrong. And I won't let it happen again. He turned to Lauren, then back to me. I also have something important to say. I've done a lot of thinking these past few months, and today I want to make the biggest decision of my life. The entire ballroom fell into a tense silence. I could feel the anxiety radiating from Margaret Wellington, who was now stealing nervous glances at her son. James took a deep breath and declared firmly, I am stepping down from my position on my family's hospital board. I am going to medical school. I want to save lives, just like Lauren's mother. Margaret staggered slightly, her face a mask of disbelief. No, James, you can't do this. We had a plan. No, Mother. James met her gaze, and for the first time, his voice carried an unshakable determination. That was your plan, not mine. The entire room held its breath. Lauren began to cry, but this time, it wasn't out of sadness, it was out of pride. I studied James for a long moment before nodding. You're going to be a great doctor, James. A smile slowly spread across his face the first time he looked truly at peace. As the wedding reception continued more smoothly than ever, an important guest arrived. Dr. Eleanor Hayes, the State Health Commissioner, a woman of immense influence in the field of public health. She walked toward me, her gaze sharp yet warm. Mrs. Olivia Warren, it's a pleasure to finally meet you in person. I smiled and shook her hand. Dr. Hayes, I'm quite surprised to see you here. She nodded. I'm here for a special reason. Everyone nearby, including Margaret Wellington, seemed to hold their breath. Dr. Hayes looked at me directly. I'll be retiring next year, and we are currently searching for my replacement as State Health Commissioner. I blinked. A murmur spread across the ballroom. She continued, her voice steady and firm. The board has reviewed many candidates and you are the one I want to nominate. The room fell into a stunned silence. Margaret collapsed into her chair, speechless. Lauren squeezed my hand. Mom? I looked at my daughter, then turned to Dr. Hayes. I didn't need time to think. I had spent my entire life helping patients in hospital rooms, but now I could do even more. I took a deep breath and smiled. I would be honored to accept this nomination. A round of applause erupted, but more than that, the proud look in Lauren's eyes meant everything to me. I didn't need revenge. The greatest victory wasn't about humiliating someone. It was about standing tall and proving your worth. Today I had done just that. Olivia's story isn't just about revenge. It's proof that true worth isn't measured by status or wealth, but by what we contribute and build. In reality, society is still full of class divisions and prejudices, but those with talent and perseverance will always find a way to prove themselves. Sometimes winning isn't about tearing others down, it's about standing firm in the face of disrespect and letting the truth speak for itself. True value can never be hidden, it just waits for the right moment to shine. What do you think about Olivia's story? Did she handle the Wellington family's disdain the right way? Have you ever experienced a similar situation in real life? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to follow the channel for more inspiring family and life stories.